Oh, hello guys. Well, I am up late tonight, and I guess I feel a little blue. And I think the reason for that is that, as of today, it is June 16th, 2018, and as of today, my local toy store, Toys R Us, is still open. And that makes me feel all kinds of different things. The first thing is that when they first started to announce that it was closing, I went in there and it was almost this, shock and disbelief, and I went in there so frequently that I know the people that work there. And the one manager that I would talk to regularly, he was still talking about like scenarios and things that could play out that would allow the store to stay open, or like the company that would buy out a few of the stores and all those kind of things. So it was a bummer, but there was like this, underlined optimism to it. But then, as time went on, they started announcing, the sales and the discount stuff and all that. And I went in a few times to check it out and to kind of talk. And it was just a place that I've gone to so many times that I just wanted to be there. But the last time that I went in there, and now that's at least 2 weeks ago now, there was different people working there. And it just had obviously a much more dilapidated and such a different feel to it that I didn't like it. I didn't like anything about it. And the people that I had kind of grown accustomed to, that had worked there for years, they weren't even there. I found out that the guy that had worked there for years and years, I think for over 10 years at least, he had started working at another job, and he'd still work there, but just 2 nights a week at the Toys R Us, so I didn't even see him. And I decided that at that moment that I didn't want to go in there anymore. I didn't want to see it that way, and that's not how I wanted my memories of Toys R Us to be. Now, I know that every video that's been made about Toys R Us has already been made. Everything that's said that could be said about it is all done. And I think that, in my opinion, the most poignant sort of farewell to Toys R Us was Pixel Dan's video. If you haven't seen it, go find it, watch it. It's the best video you can have that I think sums it up. But this is my goodbye. This is something that I don't think I could have a channel about toys or discussion about toys without talking about this place that sold those toys. Toys R Us is of mythic value, is not something to be taken lightly when you were a kid. That was maybe the most magical place outside of like Disneyland or some amusement park or some other place. I mean, I would argue that Toys R Us ranked right there with those places. And I think about that, and I think about, like, what was it? Why was it such an important and a crazy place? Obviously, because it sold all the toys and all the things that we wanted so badly. But I think one of the things that really sort of embellished the qualities that were Toys R Us was the fact that it was such a huge store. You'd go in there, and I kind of think about this. I kind of think that a lot of parents that take their kids in there, a lot of parents, they're stressed, they're tired, they're hungry, or they're worried about spending too much money, and taking their kids to Toys R Us is probably kind of a love-hate ordeal, in that you want to see your kid have fun, but you also just know that they're going to beg you for every little toy. So I just think that a lot of different quests and runs to Toys R Us would be a hurried affair. And I think the size of Toys R Us, combined with oftentimes the briskness of a visit to the place would embellish its mysticism. That it's just like that giant warehouse in Indiana Jones that they were placing the Ark of the Covenant in. It's that it had limitless things in it. Overwhelming amounts. It had aisles and aisles and aisles, and I couldn't even, I never had the opportunity to fully go through every single aisle that was in that place. And because, it's once you find your thing, you start heading out. But I always wanted to, as a kid, just spend the time and just go through each and every aisle. But I never did, and I almost think that it was best that I didn't. Because if I didn't, then I just wondered. I remember there would just be an aisle, a whole aisle, that was dedicated, that had these glass cases, like a long aisle that had glass cases just dedicated for RC cars, RC planes or boats, whatever that is, and slot cars. And then it would have all the different slot cars just laid out in these nicely lit glass cases. And on the other side, it was like an entire warehouse wall of board games. I mean, and I would think to myself, there's no way that I could ever know what all those different board games are. And I would just, and I didn't even want to focus on it. I didn't even want to, I was just like, wow, there's going to be a time that I'm going to need a board game, and I'm going to come here and I'll just, spend the time. But I don't have time for that right now. I gotta go find the action figures. I gotta go find whatever it is that I'm looking for. And I would go and I'd find it and just be overwhelmed. And I just think that the size of the toy store was such a major quality in what made that place so mystical, magical. I can't explain that feeling, that smell. My city, the city that I live in, did not get a Toys R Us, I think, until the late 80s. I would say the late 80s, 88, 89, something like that. I simply say that because I remember when we finally got that Toys R Us. And I remember that before that, I would go to California to see my grandparents. And when I'd go to California, that's when we'd make the trip to Toys R Us. And that made it, that was just even crazier, because I'm on the high of a trip and a fun place. And on top of that, that's when I go to this place called Toys R Us. And when they finally got one at my local city, it was unbelievable. I remember the first time I went into it was a Halloween night. So I think they had just finally opened it prior to Halloween, because I think if you think about once Halloween's over, then it's going to kick into the holiday season. So they probably had it up and running before Halloween, and I didn't go into it until Halloween night. And so my parents, we went to the mall. I think my mom and her sister and my cousin, we all went to the mall to go trick-or-treating, and then from there we decided to all check out the new Toys R Us, which was going to be open till midnight that night. And I remember, it did not disappoint. It made that Halloween memorable. I'm remembering it right now. I remember that there was just this one little item. I'd be overwhelmed with all the things. And the possibility that I could actually come to this place more than once. I was obsessed. I was obsessed with it. And I just remember going through, and we got maybe a snack or maybe just a little toy or something like that. And I remember in the line, in the aisle for the checkout, there was just this little thing, and it looked like this weird like straws, or almost like Chinese handcuffs, but instead it was something that if you press down on it, it would shoot up and fly into the sky. And I thought, what a crazy, unusual toy, like something that would fly, something that could shoot up higher. And I had no idea what it was, but it was just the fact that there it was just something almost minuscule and meaningless, a checkout item, an item that would be where the gum is, something that was just extraordinary and kind of cool to me. And I was totally into it. I thought it was going to be great. From that point on, Now, I have had so many personal, fun, and wonderful memories that coincide with that place. I have countless stories of things that I found with my mom there. My mom would buy me Dino Riders. When I was in the late 80s, Dino Riders were a thing, and that was one I was really into. And I just remember, I remember once my mom taking me and my friend over to Toys R Us after school. How cool is that? And they had the Sarlophosaurus or something. It was a evil Rulon Dino Rider, and it was like a mid-level one, so it'd probably be in the range of $10, $12 at that point. And my mom just got it for me. I mean, Dino Riders were a pricey toy at that time, and my mom just got it for me. It's right up there. I have it. It's a priceless, wonderful toy. The other thing that I remember, and this was rare, was my dad one time. Because my dad would get me up early Saturday mornings. Early, way earlier. I always wanted to sleep in. I hated that my dad would wake me up so early in the morning. Drag me out of bed, and he'd take me on these trips. Obviously, nowadays, I view those moments with the best, the most romanticized light that I could possibly paint it in. Those were awesome times, and I'm so glad he did that. But I remember one time he decided that, like, because I just couldn't stop thinking about it because the Toys R Us was open and it was in the morning, and he took me in there. We went in and they had Dino Rider Commandos. Now, those were they were probably super cheap, $2, $2.50, something like that, and it was little figures, but these little figures, instead of just the regular 2-pack figures, these were figures that had commando gears. They were specialized. One was a rock climber, one was a bombs expert, one was a hang glider guy, another guy was did I say camouflage? I think another guy was a camouflage. And then there was like a leader guy. And then there was a guy who like specialized in rockets. I mean, they are some of the most pivotal figures for the line itself, simply in that, like, they fleshed out the world. They built the universe that Dino Riders was in more clearly. It made it a more fun interaction to have those toys interact with all the other things. But at that moment, my dad just decided to go ahead and get me one. And that was it. That was totally awesome. It was wonderful. The other thing, as I got older, I mean, the experiences went on. I always would go to Toys R Us, and there'd be some dead times where, like, and that's just because toys today is that, you just go there, and it would just be like a period of like months where I'd be like, I'm just not seeing anything that I want. Like, there's no Ninja Turtles that I want. There's no new Dino Rider. I mean, there's no new Dino Riders. There's no new Ninja Turtles. There's no new like NECA stuff I would be able to find in more recent times. Transformers I would keep looking for. There's a bunch of different kinds of toys that were kind of coming out in these past few years, and of course there'd be like the hot times, like right around Comic-Con. I think a lot of times would be the release of some really great toys, and that's kind of been across the board. But Comic-Con's releasing now, and I just don't see it. But anyway, I digress. This house that I live in right now, I would be lying if I said that its proximity to Toys R Us was not a factor. I love this neighborhood. I love everything about it. And I loved the idea that I was basically within walking distance to my local Toys R Us. And that I would be able to go for walks with my kids. And I'd be able to say, let's go to Toys R Us. Let's just walk to Toys R Us. Let's get something out and let's walk back home. It was a little slice of heaven to think about that as my reality. And obviously I went in there so much recently that I became to where, I mean, I would get off work and I would just want to have a stressful, long day, I would just stop in the Toys R Us and just walk through the halls, walk through the aisles, just looking. And it didn't bother me at all that I wouldn't get anything or that I didn't see anything. I just got to where it was a place where I thought of children playing with toys, or what kind of toys I thought would be good to play with. And when they announced that it was going to be closing down, that hurt. It hurt. And, you know, I guess all things go on, you know. And toys will go on. I don't, you know, and I heard that, you know, I've read all the reports that, you know, that it's going to hurt the toy industry. And, you know, that, and I've also heard the reports that, you know, KB Toys is looking to make a comeback. I don't know if any of those things are true or not. I have no way of validating or researching, and I think that pretty much that's the consensus within the toy world as well. But, man, what a total bummer. You know, that's just such a neat place. Like, I don't care about, you know, all these stores that they built up. I live next to a place that's growing in development, and, you know, there's all these, like, stores. There's, like, jewelry, or there's, like, some kind of clothing store, all those things. It's like, man, like, or, you know, like, whatever. I remember when I'd go to a mall as a kid, and a mall felt like a really fun place. And I realized the only reason for that was because there was a toy store in it. Now, any mall I go to, there's no toy stores. There's none. There's no toy stores. They might find like a island store or whatever that has like radio-controlled crap, but that's not the same. That's not even close to the same. So I don't even care about any of those places. Those places just seem like bougie, pricey things that people with lots of money go to, I guess. But they don't relate to me. I don't see any value in those stores. It's just weird stores that I could just go someplace else to find whatever they got cheaper. But, having said that, you know, my love for toys is still intense. I still think that it's valuable. I don't want to go on and on, but I wanted to share my memories of that place because I think it's worth it. I think it's an important chapter in people who collect toys. I think there's so many memories about like this time that they found that toy. You know, they dug through the pin. You know, they went through the racks and they saw, you know, the corner of that figure, and they knew that was it, and they got it, and pure gold. I mean, like, elated bliss, like same thing that people that must be on slot machines feel. They feel those things. So those were a few of my stories, and you know, now Walmarts, Targets, the internet. Such a bummer. I don't mind the internet. I still actually, I really enjoy kind of piecing together a lot of toys from the internet. Like when I get on eBay and I'll try to buy something, and like a lot of times I'll buy like some sort of figure or play set or something like that, and it might even come with another toy or thing like this, and I like getting that toy and then seeing how well eBay can like find all the parts to that toy to make it complete. I get off on that, and then I'll keep a search going for Batman Returns Bat Ski Boat Tail Fin. I'll keep a search on that for years until it comes up, and it will. I don't care what it is you're looking for. It will show up eventually. Somebody will sell that piece. Somebody will sell just that piece on eBay. That's pretty fun. And I just truly hate how much of a struggle it is to go in and out of Walmart sometimes. Oh my god. It's like I try to park just where the summer section is the entrance that you can go through just to like go through the plants and stuff, because those places are usually close to the toys. You can go in, take a quick look, okay, look, great, it hasn't changed in 2 weeks, good, and then I'll leave. And that helps, but other than that, Target's a pretty, that's a nice place to go look for toys. I've had many great memories of finding toys but none of them are special. None of those memories in my Walmart in the 80s, I found Ray Fillet. I had searched for Ray Fillet from the Ninja Turtles for the entire year, and it wasn't until that holiday season that I was at Walmart that I finally found him. I was elated. So, there you go. That's a Walmart find that, tops the best, but none of them were like, I don't know, none of them felt as special as Toys R Us did. But here's to the future, here's to a growing idea that, that a chain company that ran the toys, the toy community, that, it can't become, the toy industry can't become something better again. I'm definitely not a pessimist. But I just wanted to, give credit and credence and acknowledgement to how much time I loved and thought about Toys R Us. So, with that, I'm going to finish reading up some stuff here and hang out with these toys. And I hope you guys have a good night and a good day tomorrow. Either way, you have a wonderful time. Happy Father's Day. I know I'll have a good one. Good night.